Welcome to the Feed the Soul Company podcast, a space I've created to share my story and to encourage you to share yours. I'm your host, Liv Setla, and I can't thank you enough for being here. With me today is super special guest, Jhenna Gabriel. So, Jhenna, I know her, oh my gosh, super blessed, but I actually got to be her teammate in 2022 at UNLV. That was my sophomore year and Jenna's fifth year. But before that, she was an All-American setter at Texas and also Big 12 Setter of the Year there. She played pro in Puerto Rico and also with the San Diego Mojo. And now she's the assistant coach at Missouri. And in their season in 2024, this past season, she helped Mizzou make it to the Sweet 16. And that's the third time that the program did that in history. And I'm just super excited she's on here. And Jhenna, thank you so much for being here and introduce yourself to the podcast.
Thank you. Hi, guys. I'm Jhenna Gabriel. Like Libby said, I had the privilege of playing for both the University of Texas and for UNLV for my fifth year, one of my favorite seasons of all time. So incredibly happy that I got to experience that. I'm from Honolulu, Hawaii, and now I live all the way out here in Columbia, Missouri, getting to coach volleyball as a retired athlete, I guess.
OMG. So, first of all, before I ask you some questions, I want you to kind of touch on more of your journey of how, like, getting into volleyball and then how you made it here where you are today.
Yeah, so getting into volleyball, I played a bunch of sports growing up, mostly basketball. My dad was a basketball player and a basketball coach, so it's kind of how all of me and my siblings started playing sports. I essentially transitioned to volleyball completely because one, I was really bad at it. I could not serve a ball over the net at all. But I just remember watching my sister play, and my sister was a setter, and I watched her play, and I was like, well, I want to do that. I want to be a setter. So got my butt into volleyball and played for the same coach as her. Kind of went through that whole entire same process that she did. But absolutely fell in love with it, fell in love with the team aspect of it, fell in love with the fact that I was really bad at it while all of my friends and teammates were pretty good. Just kind of took it as a challenge to get to the level that they were at and then kind of just continued to go with that part of it.
Love that. That's how I started too, like my sister. And I think, OMG, like, what would we do without our big sisters? Like,
No, exactly.
can you tell us a little bit more about what made you go to Texas?
It took a bunch of visits. I wasn't a highly recruited setter. I think it's one thing to grow up in Hawaii and want to play college volleyball. You just don't get the same amount of exposure that a lot of the teams in the mainland do. We would be lucky to play in three tournaments a year. So my recruiting process was a little slow, a little different. And then was deciding between a bunch of smaller schools at first, and then Texas kind of came into the picture. And within 2 days of a phone call to my club coach, I was on a plane with my dad to go on a visit out there. And as soon as I got there, I just knew. I was like, well, how do I say no to any of this? And always grew up watching big volleyball and wanting to feel what that felt like. And always had this like innate desire to do something big, and growing up as an athlete and that being the majority of what I was, the opportunity to go and compete for championships and make Final Fours and do things like that. I think that part for me was what grabbed me and made it impossible to say no to doing something like that.
Love that. Like, I love how you talk about that innate desire of like being something bigger. And I think
Mhm.
that's really cool. Can you tell us more about your experience at Texas?
Yeah, it was crazy to say the least. I think I was not entirely sure of what it meant to play for Texas. Growing up, I'd watched them here and there, but a lot of my focus was on University of Hawaii volleyball and some more of like the West Coast teams, and that's just kind of what you did there. And so getting there, it was definitely a culture shock, moving far away from home, um, to a place I'd really never spent time in, and understanding what Texas was. Like at first, I knew Texas from like, oh, okay, like the Longhorns, and that was kind of the extent of it. And when I got there, it's like, oh no, Jenna, this is life. Like
Mhm.
people eat, sleep, and breathe Texas athletics, and like this is what it is. And that in itself is absolutely amazing. And I love that part of it. I think managing it as an 18-year-old that finally got to start for one of the best teams in the country, I was like, whoa, okay, this is a lot. And just kind of fell in love with that part of it and fell in love with the pressure and fell in love with what it took to be that. And I think as my years went on, I it was kind of just stripping away from me like the love that I had for the game. And after a while I felt like I had lost it. And not I'm not too far out of it at this point. I think
Mhm.
I'm going on year 3, year 4 of being out of the program and out of Texas. I see things a lot differently. Um, and just can appreciate how it helped me to grow as a person and as an athlete, of course, but I think I take so much more away from it, as a person now than I did when I was there. I think it's really healthy to get away from it and take a step back and reflect back onto it after you've been away from it for a while. And that's when I found that I was really able to take away a lot more positive than I was able to when I was still there and still living it.
No, that's for sure. I think a lot of student athletes can, or guess like former student athletes can relate to that because I'm starting to experience that now, finishing up my last season at UNLV. But like now that I have time away from it, I'm feeling like, okay, yeah, now I can be grateful and look back and like, because in the moment it's tough and it's like, this just sucks right now. Full honesty. It's just like I don't know what the message is. I don't know what the meaning is, but then later on, like after you're out of it for a while, it makes more sense to be like, oh, okay, I can look back on it and appreciate it. But when you're in the moment, it's definitely tough. Um, do you want to touch on a little bit about maybe what was so difficult about your time at Texas and then like what was starting to strip your love of the game away?
Yeah, I think a lot of it had to do with my self-worth in a sense.
Mm.
I strictly placed it on how I was doing on the volleyball court. And it was all determined by, okay, do the fans think I'm good enough to be the setter for this team? Okay, does my coach think I'm good enough to be the setter for this team? Do my teammates think I'm good enough to be the setter for this team? And when you get in your own head about all of that, it's so natural to just make it seem like all of it is against you. Nobody wants you to have it. You're not good enough to have it. And so I went into the gym every single day and felt this like need to prove myself like day in and day out. And I think that's healthy. I think you should prove yourself every single day in a healthy way. But I think that it was like a fight for my life. Like if I don't do this every day, if I don't show up and be perfect every single day, then I'm gonna lose my spot. I'm gonna lose my self-worth. And then what am I even doing any of this for? And then everything that I've accomplished, like none of that matters. Like that means I'm
Mhm.
gonna fail. And I sat in it for a while and just got to a really, really low place. Didn't really talk to many people about it, like besides maybe my parents, my family, and my best friends. Um, but nobody there necessarily knew that I was struggling so badly, until I finally decided to come out and like speak about it and sat down with my coach and told him like, okay, I kind of want to like feel out therapy and talk to somebody about it and figure out like how I can just like better myself and help my mind. And so with the resources that they have at Texas, they were able to provide me with that and ended up really benefiting from it. It definitely pushed me to get through my 4th year at Texas. But I feel like at that point after that, there's nothing left in the tank for me. Um, I felt like I was doing it to get through that season for my teammates, for my coaches, and see what I could do in one more season. And then going home for Christmas break, I just kind of separated myself from everything and tried to figure out like, okay, Jenna, what do you really want? And ultimately it was to not play volleyball anymore and to be completely done with the game. And that was it. There's no plan B. I didn't know what I wanted to do instead. I just knew that I was done and I couldn't imagine myself having to do it for another year because in that moment I had felt like it had just taken so much more from me than it was giving.
Mhm.
And so I didn't feel like it was what I needed to do for myself and for my teammates or my coaches either. I just don't think that it would have been healthy for me to be there at that point for another year and tear apart a team culture or ruin relationships that I had worked so hard to build and love. And
Yeah.
yeah, so I was just like, okay, I'm gonna hang it up and I'm gonna be done forever.
That's so funny considering look at where you are now and how it all went. But there's a couple of things you just mentioned that I want to touch on. I think, well, first when you said this need to like prove yourself in the gym every day, like I think that's such an interesting thing because for athletes coming in, it's like obviously you want to be motivated and gritty and like come in and get to work and then like have a chip on your shoulder like yeah, I deserve to be here, like I'm going to prove it. But then also it's like a double-edged sword because I remember feeling something similar and being like okay, I have to come in and prove myself every day. But then also there's this freedom that comes from like I don't have to prove anything and then playing free. And so it's like I don't know, like I don't really have a solution for young athletes who feel like this, but it's like it's just such an interesting like what like mindset athletes have about this because it's like obviously be motivated and go after it, but also there's a balance to it of like being like taking pressure off yourself. But it's such a hard like fine line to find and you have to go through the ups and downs with it to find it. But I think that's such a cool part of your experience, like how that's there. And I'm happy that you're able to like open up and once you're able to open up you were like finding resources and things like that because not many people have like a positive experience with that. So I think that was really cool. Like that was part of your journey too. And then being like, I'm done, like done with volleyball. And then I remember I think this is where I kind of come into this story, but I remember my sophomore year, Dawn brought in Jenna as to be like one of our coaches, I think or to help out. And it was like, oh yeah, like, oh my God, like this is gonna be so amazing. Like, and then we were like coaching camp, and then it was like, um, maybe Jenna's not done with volleyball. I guess, yeah, what brought you to UNLV after this time of being like, I'm done with volleyball? And then now you're at UNLV.
Yeah. So my parents had moved to Vegas at the end of like my senior year at Texas, so that like May of 2022. Um, and I had just quit volleyball, announced it to the world, and I had no backup plan. So I called my parents. I was like, "Hey, I'm gonna move in and figure out what I'm gonna do with my life because I have literally no idea what I'm gonna do." And they were like, "Yeah, come on." And had no issue with it, and I'm so lucky to have them as my parents and my best friends because they were nothing but supportive through absolutely everything. And so I was hanging out there for a while. I was coaching clinics across the country with Out of System that whole entire summer, and that honestly like really kind of brought this like spark back of
Mm.
just wanting to be around the game and wanting to maybe play again and try to go overseas. But essentially, I was done playing college volleyball, even though I knew I had that extra year. And so Dawn got into contact with me. We went and sat down and had coffee together and just got to know each other. And we decided to bring me on as the volunteer assistant for that season. And I remember working summer camps and you guys would play during like the lunch breaks for all the little kiddos to watch. And I sat there one day by myself, just like eating my lunch, watching you guys play, and I just start crying. I'm just like sitting there by myself, like just bawling my eyes out. And I just watched you guys play, and I was like, I want to be part of this. And Dawn had mentioned like you have another year, like you could do it. And I was just like, no, 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 no. Like I'm done. I don't want to relive any of that. Like it's okay. Like I will coach. Like it's all good. Um, but then I watched you guys play and I was like, dang it, like it's still there. Like the bug was still there, and sat down, had that conversation with her and made sure everybody would be okay with it and all of those things. And then boom, like they announced me as volunteer assistant, took it down, then like the next day announced that I was gonna play. And that was such a crazy, crazy like sequence of events, truly.
I love this time. Like I think my sophomore year was just so much fun. And I remember like, or Jen and I were just talking about this before that in this episode, and she was saying like that was just so much fun. Like what a fun year. And then I remember, or I brought up to her stats from the year. I was like, um, I actually like didn't even know. Like I knew Jenna was amazing, obviously, but I think she had like over 1,000 assists, all Mountain West awards, like first team All Mountain West, newcomer of the year, and there was like another award, like all in just the one year at
Gosh.
UNLV. It was just like, OMG, like, and then she literally just said, "Yeah, I was just having fun." Like, I don't know, like I was like, "That's amazing." Like that's how it should be, just like playing the game, and then all of these like the accolades or whatever come after, but it's just like just enjoying it. And I remember like after one of the games, maybe senior night, I don't remember exactly, but I remember a moment like you were just like thank you guys like so much for just this experience and just like and that's what we like prided ourselves on at UNLV, like this family culture. And just like to hear that like, oh, someone as amazing as Jenna could feel this too. It's like we obviously we do our best to do it for the players that are there, but for someone to come in and be like, yeah, you guys, this is real, like this is special, like, and we were like, oh, like obviously I'd never been anywhere else, so like I was like, oh, I thought this is just what we do, and then for Jen to be like, no, guys, like this is like really cool. I was just like, oh my gosh, but just a little bit of that. But then sounds like you're still not done playing. You go on to play pro. Can you tell us a little about like the difference from college level and going pro, like that, how that was?
Yeah, that was pretty interesting. You don't know a lot before you do it. Like you have to sign a contract, and then within like the next 2 days, you could just be gone and in a different country, thousands and thousands of miles away, and you just have to do it because that's how it goes. I was lucky to go to Puerto Rico, very different from having to go directly overseas. Their season kind of started in a way where I still got to enjoy New Year's with my family and like have a little buffer and figure out what to pack and all of those things. Um, when you get there, it's interesting because you kind of come into that and they're bringing you there to like be the team. Like you kind of have this like expectation that you are going to be the savior of this club and that's it. And so
Oh.
immediately it's like, okay, I have to be on my game. I need to make sure that like I'm perfect because if not, like they can very well just like send me home. And so that was it. And I got to go with two other Americans who ended up like being two of my best friends for like the rest of my life. And we had the most amazing time there. And I think the funnest part about it is that you're a volleyball player. That's your job. No school, no other like requirements that you have to get done. Like you get your lift done, you have your practice, and then you have all this free time to like figure out what to do with. And we're on an island in the Caribbean and we're going to the beach all the time and then playing volleyball and then going to the beach again and just having so much fun. And I think that in any other situation, I would have felt that pressure a bit differently. But I think I once again was lucky to surround myself with people that like allowed me to just embrace pressure. um,
Hmm.
and take it for what it was and then still have fun with it. I was sitting there like, I'm in Puerto Rico playing professional volleyball. I am gonna be okay. Like, I think I can play some volleyball here. Like, because I get to live here and experience all these new things and do it with people that I found once again through my sport that I absolutely love. And I think I was slowly learning how to see things in a light that was going to be beneficial for me or like going to be beneficial for like the way that I was
Hmm.
thinking about things. And then that ended up turning into an amazing experience. I was never sent home, so that was great. Finished out the whole season.
Yay!
Yeah, and it was just one of those things that it's like, wow, okay, my sport allowed me to be able to like live here and like experience this whole entire new different culture and basically a new country. Like I did not, you
Wow.
don't need your passport to get to Puerto Rico, obviously, but completely different culture than we're used to growing up in. And my family is Puerto Rican, so to be able to go back there, like to live there for a little bit and
Oh, that's cool.
really get to feel that culture and argue with people that no, I promise you I'm Puerto Rican, even though I don't look like it. Um,
That's so funny.
that part was really cool, and it was definitely a hard place to say bye to, because it was probably one of the best first professional experiences I think anybody could have because it was just the greatest thing ever.
Oh, I love that so much for you, especially like just volleyball can be a really tough journey and it's like so hard and like you hear we were just talking about this too, like just horror stories with coaches or anything could go wrong and it just like it makes me so happy like that you were able to have this experience and just like especially like now I'm in this space of like early 20s of like we can what do we do with our lives? We can go play volleyball in a different country. I can go like what do I do? And it's like you're literally living this life of like yeah, I'm just gonna do it, follow it, and that's I feel like what this like young 20s is all about. And I just kind of love that for you. Like you're just doing it. So it's so awesome. Okay, now going from pro volleyball to coaching, going through all these levels. Now talk us to um how you were able to come to Mizzou.
Yeah, so I finished at Puerto Rico, um, and then came back home, and I'd signed a contract to go play in Spain. Um,
Mm.
and as exciting as that should be, I was terrified and could not wrap my head around being away from home for 8 months in a foreign country. And I just love being close to my people. And 8 months felt way too long, but I was gonna do it anyway. And then Dawn had given me a call about like 2 or 3 days after I signed the contract to um, offer me a job here at Mizzou. And there was something about it that I was like, I need to do this. Like, I think this is what I should be doing. I shouldn't be going to Spain. And so I ended up getting out of that contract and I'd never been to Missouri before. And I packed 2 suitcases and just showed up. And I had no idea what to expect. I was just in my head like this is what you should be doing. Like it feels right, gut feeling. You have to go for it. Just do it and see what happens. Um did it and it was amazing. I think my favorite part about all of it was seeing the other side of the game. One, I was 10 times more grateful than I already was for my coaching staffs that I'd played under and the support staff that we had around us because I thought it was hard to just show up as an athlete. Like all I had to do was look at my calendar like and just show up and work hard and that was it. But there's so much that goes into the behind the scenes that I just never really thought about. And so that alone opened my eyes to like okay, wow, like this is insane. Like what I had people doing for me for 5 years of my life was absolutely crazy. And then on the other side of it, like I definitely started to view my time as a student athlete a lot differently, especially like the hardships part of it. Like viewed my time at Texas very differently and
Mm.
started to have just like a much better understanding. And like I knew that I was this young kid that was figuring out who I was and like trying to manage playing at this high level and doing something that I'd never done before. And there were so many things that I just took so much harder than looking back on it that I should have. And I think my favorite part about it is like I can talk to my coaches back at Texas now and kind of laugh at it in a sense and be like, "Oh my goodness, like I get it now. I understand." And just to be able to like rekindle that relationship with that staff had been like the best thing that I'd ever done.
Oh, I love that.
I talk to Jarrett like often now and um just to be able to kind of like give him my like tell him what I'm thinking about coaching and being like, can I pick your brain on this? And like
Mm.
in this situation, like why was it like this instead of this? And just to be able to understand like who he is like a little bit more and see him not just like as my coach. It's so easy to just like be in something and you see your coach like that's just my coach. Like not really. Like he was responsible for me and like cared about who I was becoming as a person, not just an athlete. But when I was there, like there was so much pressure to be this amazing athlete and to win and to win and to win that like you as an athlete lose sight of the fact that there's so many people around you that care about what you're doing and care about who you are as a person. And when I was just digging myself deep into that hole, like there was blinders were on and I didn't see anything like that. Like I didn't see any of it that way. So being on this side of the game now, I can see things so differently. And it's helped me grow as a person so much because there was a moment in time where I thought that just like everybody was just against me. The whole world is against me as an athlete because I didn't feel like I was like performing the way that I needed to be, or I felt like I was performing the way I needed to be, but I'm letting the opinions of fans like get into my head about whether I deserve to be here or not. It's like, no, I work my butt off every single day to deserve to be here. Like I
Yeah,
know that I deserve to be here. Um, so that part, learning that side of things and seeing it that way, like was probably the one thing I was most excited about when I got here and we got into season and just seeing the ins and outs of just how coaching works and how you manage everything and manage players and manage personalities and build a family because I think that's the one thing I was so grateful to be able to do is come in with this new staff. All of us were new. This is going to be our first year doing it at Mizzou. And at the forefront of like everything that we were doing, it's like, well, yeah, we need to get better at volleyball, but like we need to be a unit. We need to be a family and we need to figure out how we build that. And what we were able to do in one season alone was absolutely insane. And just because we found success there, like it didn't stop. Like it was still like, okay, how do we become even more of a family and like create this sisterhood is something that we talk about all the time and was one of our main goals of this last season was to actually just build a legitimately strong sisterhood. And it wasn't like being best friends all the time and only telling you the good stuff. It was like no, like I'm going to tell you how it is and this is what we need to be for each other in order for us to be successful and in order for us to be good human beings and just be more than just volleyball players. And so that part was just like absolutely insane to be able to go from somewhere where I felt that and come into a place and like have to build that from the ground up with a brand new team and a brand new staff. I think that part was that part was the craziest part to me, like that culture shock of like just coming into a brand new place and a brand new group of people. There was like hardly any familiarity between the girls, but I knew I had Dawn, I knew I had Cullen, I knew I had Maya, like, and so immediately like there was that comfort. And I was like, you know what? Like we can just hit the ground running and I'm just gonna be whatever they need me to be so that like we can continue to build the things that like really matter in order for us to as eventually like accomplish the goals that we're putting into place.
OMG, there's so much in that I think is so good. Like just sitting here listening to you talk about all this, one, there's like a lot that I think no one would have guessed about you that um it's like, oh, you have no idea that these athletes have these feelings or think these things when they're out there, but it's like, yeah, like Jenna was feeling this at Texas. Jenna was feeling like thinking about this on the court. It's like, oh my gosh, I would have never guessed that. And then also, like, I can relate to this experience of like kind of digging yourself into this hole. Like, obviously, being a student athlete is so hard. Like, we always talk about, oh, like you're this 1% of people doing this hard thing. And then as I've started like working, um, just a couple weeks with the Vegas Thrill, the pro team in Vegas, like behind the scenes. Like I've literally scratched the surface and I'm starting to see, okay, behind the scenes, and there's like so much more going into a team, like all of that that goes behind it. And it's like that like newfound like appreciation. Like when you talk about like, oh, like I can look back on my college experience and like see it differently because like being in it is so hard because you're like, oh, this is so hard. I'm going from this thing to this thing. But then again, the blinders, like you don't like it's hard to see the bigger picture because your job is to like show up, give good at for be the best athlete you can be. And it's like, yeah, okay, that's what I'm gonna do. And it's focus on these things. But then afterwards, it's like, oh my gosh, like there really is so much more going on. Like especially when you're talking about building this family at Mizzou, that's so amazing. And it's like I love this approach to it, especially like you're literally building this new family, like new girls, new place, new everything. And I just love how you speak about coming into it with such an open mind. Like, I've never been here before. I don't even know what I'm doing, but I'm just gonna be the best for what we're trying to build and be the best person I can be. And it's like, I love hearing you talk about it. Like, this is so, I freaking love this for you. Okay, so now that we've touched a little bit more about your journey going from one level to the next, I just think like I wanted to ask you this because I remember you being at UNLV and kind of being open about your mental health. Like, this was my experience, like the resources, my journey. And then I remember you going on to these like next levels and always having the back of my head, like, OMG, I wonder how she's doing, like because it's probably different, like being the athlete. Okay, she's figuring out what helps her as an athlete. Now she's pro athlete. Okay, figuring out there. And then now coaching. Like, can you tell us more about like taking care of yourself, going through all these different levels of different positions around the game?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that I think about when I do think about like how I've grown mental health wise since college, I wish I had done something about it sooner. I think I was scared. There's this negative connotation around like
Hmm.
mental health or going to therapy or just like speaking on it or any of it. Um, and it took me a long time to get there, which is so fine. That's totally okay. But I wish I had done it sooner because I think I would have seen so many things in a different light.
Hmm.
Um, which is like I literally talked to my old coach at Texas about it. I was like, wow, like okay, like that was such a crazy thing to go through, and I wish I had done it sooner, and I wish I was comfortable enough to lean on you guys because you guys were there the whole entire time, and I just chose to go into myself and be in this shell that I had never been in before, and such a new feeling. And I had you guys supporting me through 4 years of my life and just chose not to do that. And by the time I got to that point, I was like, this is awesome. And so I think I was kind of like discovering what I needed to do to focus on training my mental side because I do think like part of it is like you train your brain the same way you train your body. And just allowing myself to feel things and not be mad about it. I think that's the one thing I took away from it. Just like, yeah, you feel your feelings. Like your emotions are your emotions and you deserve to feel those things. Don't push it down and save it for later because they're going to come out in a way that you don't want them to. the more you keep pushing them down. So I think when I left, like that was the one thing I did. I was like, I'm just gonna feel what I feel, and that's okay. And then I can figure out how to manage that as I'm going through it instead of pushing it down and making it harder for myself on another day. And I found that that's what worked for me. And I know that it works so differently for everybody. Like, not one person is ever going to be the same. Um, I think at UNLV, I had the opportunity to live with my parents. Like, I lived with my parents all season. I had my two biggest supporters with me 24/7. They were at every single game. And
Mhm.
I think that alone, like, just changed everything for me. Um, just to have them close to me and be able to just like go play volleyball and they get to watch every single game if they want to. And I can just like go home after practice and it's like, oh my gosh, you guys made me dinner. Thank you so much. Like, it was just such a relaxing experience for me that I think it allowed my brain a break from having to worry about so much. It's like, well, what do I have to worry about? My parents are right here. Like, and those two, they're, when I say they're my best friends, they seriously are. And I'm so close with them. It's insane. Um, and I think that really helped and it allowed me a space to just like be whatever I was because I was with my family, that it didn't matter. Like, it didn't matter if it was the good, the bad, the ugly. Like, they can see anything. Like, I don't care what they see. And so I had a good chunk of time to just like work through a bunch of stuff. Um, and then by the time I went to Puerto Rico, I was just mentally in such a good place that I was like, let's do it. I can take this on. Like, it's 4 months. Like, I can do anything for 4 months. Like, that'll be a piece of cake. And for the most part, it was. I felt a little bit of pressure here and there, and we weren't winning games the way I wanted to, and that added on to it. And I was just in a place where I've never lost. I had never felt that before, and I couldn't do anything to help us win games. And so I had like a little bit of a dip there, and then it turned into like, well, Jenna, you are living in Puerto Rico and
Mm.
you're with these two girls that are becoming your best friends. Like, win games when you can win games. If you can't win games, like, it's not all on you to just win games. And I think that helped too. And the group of people that I had there were amazing. And our staff that we had on that team was amazing. And so there was so much more that I could be happy about and was so lucky to experience outside of just winning games. That I was like, it's gonna be fine. And then when I left and I went home for a little bit and then decided to come out to Mizzou, I had no idea what to expect. It's brand new. It's like, I only know how to be an athlete. I don't know how to be a coach and be these things that my coaches over the years were for me as a player. Um, but the one thing I did was just like give myself grace and like understand like you're learning a brand new, like, yes, you're still in volleyball. Yes, you're still involved in it every single day, but you're learning a completely new aspect like of volleyball. And the one thing that I knew I wanted to do was just like be what those girls like needed me to be to just enhance their experience and like encourage them to just have a good time and have fun. And at the end of the day, this is college volleyball. It is not the end of the world. And if you just let yourself just breathe and be free, like, that's when you're going to end up playing the best ball of your life. And that's when it transcends just you in sport. It transcends so far out of that into who you are as a person and who you see yourself becoming, because I think that part is really cool when you're like able to like just take a pause and just be like, wow, like I really really love the person that I'm like starting to become. And I think sport has such a unique way of like taking you to that place, because I think as an athlete, like, you know one thing and you know how to work hard and you know how to be a good athlete, but when you start to allow yourself to see what it's doing for you as a person and not just an athlete, I think that's when it's really cool. And then you really start to have this love for the game that you've never had, because that it turns from like a love for a game to a love for like the life that you're creating and the person that you're becoming. And that is it sounds so cheesy, but like I'm like smiling ear to ear because like that's exactly what has like been happening for me. And I love being able to like reflect back on that, like not just with myself, but like talking to my former coaches and talking to my family or talking to the people that I work with right now or talking to my boyfriend about it. It's really crazy to be able to explain to him this person that he'd never known. He's never met that person. And now he sees this person and like this is what he knows. And I'm like, just you have no idea like who I was before and like what it took to get here. And even since then, just like being able to talk to people that have seen you grow is so crazy to know that like, yeah, I did it myself, but like, wow, you guys can see it too. Like that's when to me, that's when you know like you're doing what you're supposed to be doing in a sense.
Oh my God, Jenna, I'm so happy you're on. I could literally just sit here and listen to you forever. You're just so amazing. Like, I just like
Oh,
your outlook on it and like, there's just wow. Like, um, I just really love how you speak on how this experience is so much bigger than what you think it is. Like, and starting from the beginning, you said, "Oh, I wish I did this sooner." But then I also love how with every step of the way, you speak about it as if you're so patient with yourself. You're like, "Okay, this is this time." Like, you had your time at Texas. Then it was like, "Okay, finish my fourth year for the people around me." Then it was, "Okay, I have a whole year at UNLV to just like fill my bucket up, be around my family, just like, and you just like let yourself enjoy it." Like, I feel like with how I am currently in this moment recording with this episode, I feel like I'm rushing to get to like everywhere I want to be like right now. And I love how you speak about this like with your career, with how you approach your emotions and just like overall with your life. You're just like so okay, I'm in this space, but then like you give yourself time. Like and then it was Puerto Rico. Okay, couple months. And it's like, okay, then you gave yourself that couple months to be in Puerto Rico, building that life there. Then, like, I just love how each step of the way you're just like letting yourself be so present with what you're doing and just be like, then in coaching, you're like, okay, coach, like, I've been a player my whole life. And then now you're like, oh, but I could just be the best for the people here. And then I can do that. And you're just so patient with yourself. And I don't know if that comes naturally to you, but like hearing you talk about it, I'm just like looking up to you in awe. Like, I want to be Jenna with how she's doing her life right now because that sounds so much more like fulfilling and gratifying. Cause like, and I think you can relate to this. I just feel like I can never get out of this hustle culture of like, or maybe because I'm literally still in my senior year, but it's like, uh, coming out of it, it's like switching my athlete mindset to like, oh, I'm still around sport, I'm still working in it, but I can slow down and I like don't know yet like how to do that yet. But like with you, it's like, okay, like I'm literally you're saying, okay, I'm gonna even though I've been around volleyball my whole life, I'm still learning a new thing. Like that's so like eye-opening for me because it's like, oh, maybe that's why I'm like with my life right now. I'm like, what am I doing? And I feel so like spinning. And then just taking a second to be like, I'm still learning something new. So everything you're saying, I'm just like, it's hitting my brain in all the right places. And I'm just like, oh, life can be like enjoyable. Like, yes, it's a grind.
absolutely.
This is a grind in all of like athletics, but like, I just love how you speak on like being joyful and being free and being happy is where you're going to play your best, perform your best, be your best. And it touches on more aspects of your life, not just on the court. And I just like, I'm just soaking this all in right now. I just love everything you're saying. Okay, so is there anything else like I have the question about if I were to Google you, what's something that wouldn't come up that people don't know but is important to your story? Do you want to tell us a little bit more on that?
Yeah, I actually had a conversation recently about it's like this they refer to it as like this alter ego. Because I've often run into the not the problem. I actually think it's quite hilarious now. That people that had watched me play would like so if they Googled me and like watched a video of me playing at Texas, they would probably think that I'm like the meanest person alive and that like they would never get along with me and they're never gonna like me. And I can't even count on two hands, on a million hands, how many times I've met somebody and I become close with them, they become my friends, and they're like, "Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, like, I was not expecting this person from you." Like, oh my goodness, like, that is so crazy, and this like this alter ego that I like have on the court, and I thought it was like I never really noticed like how huge of like a difference it was until like probably I like left Texas and I was like around new people that like didn't understand that I was like two different people like on the court and off the court. Um, but having those conversations now, like I think that they're the funniest things because like it's almost like when I was playing, I let my brain go to like this completely like different person and it was like super intense and like crazy and like in your face like you're gonna think that I'm gonna like punch you through the net because that's just the energy that I'm giving off and then like off the court I'm like bubbly and silly and laughing all the time and probably like not the most serious person in the world but you would never know that and I've been so excited to like almost like take that into like coaching and be able to explain how like that is like so okay and how it enhances like who you are as a player and just like lets you be like whatever it is that you want to be like on the court. I was that on the court and I loved it. Like I loved having that like persona, if you will. I don't know. I
Yeah.
loved what people thought that of me and that when they met me, they're like, wait, you're actually nice. I'm like, surprise like um but I loved that that like became something that I was like it almost made me feel like okay this is like my athlete self like this is who I am as an athlete but like this is who I am as like a human and like they are the same person because I still am that and super competitive and very fiery and have this like just chip on my shoulder type of attitude because I just that's who I am. I've grown up that way, and I love that part of myself. Um, but it's just really really cool to me that especially taking a step back from it, like that's like my athlete self, but like that wasn't everything that I was. Like it was also it was just like, an extension of me in a sense, but like off the court, it was just like, no, this is just who I am as a human. They're two different people. I think it's a really cool way to see things because it's not. I guess I didn't even realize it in the moment how it was like a perfect explanation of like why I wasn't just an athlete and
Mm.
like because that's who that was. But then I was this other person off the court and I don't know, maybe like she was hurting that girl on the court, that alter ego, and I don't know, maybe that's why it came out, or maybe it was just because I really wanted to win every single game and wanted to be in people's faces because they thought it was fun. But that was like one of my favorite things to like run into when I meet people that have only seen me play and hadn't met me yet. That like that's how I come off to them a little bit and be able to surprise them on this end and be like, that is, I promise that's just that's not how I am
It
all
stays
the
on the
time.
court.
Only sometimes. But I ran into that the other day. And I think it's after I got that question, like read through those questions, and I was like, that is what people would see when they would Google me. It would be that exactly. And then they'd meet me and be like, that's actually not you. I'd be like, it is. Just wait, because you'll see it one day, but
Just
not
wait.
just not right now in this moment.
I think that's so funny, and I think that's like really funny and really important at the same time because it's like you get so caught up as like, oh, your identity as an athlete um in it when you're in it and then coming out of it. Like I think for me at least right now, it's like, oh, I loved who I am as an athlete, but like I don't want to lose that because I'm not competing in the same like level or anymore. So it's like, oh no, what do I do about that? But I love how you said, well, that's still me. That's there. And then this is still me. Like they're both me, but they're just like so they come out at different times. And I love how
Exactly.
you're using that now, like to encourage, like in your coaching, you're like, that just helps like understand players so much better because it's like, oh, so and so we like on our team, oh, so and so's a bitch, like whatever. But it's like, oh wait, maybe that's just them on the court, or maybe that's just this side of them. That's not all of them. So I just like, I think that's really cool. You come in with that like open-minded like way to go about things and meeting different people. Like I love it, I love it, I love it. You've told us a little bit about, actually a lot of it about, but just your journey overall, like going to all these different levels. Is there anything that we haven't touched on in terms of some challenges you've been through and then how you overcame that?
Um, I think I'm just learning as I go, just like really diving into like adulthood and
Mm.
not being an athlete. Everything's provided for you. Like as an athlete, it's like, here you go, here you go, here you go. Here's all these resources. Um, and then coming out of it and being like, okay, what now? Like, oh, I have to do this. I don't even know how to do this. And I've been running into that a lot lately and just being like, I have no idea like what I'm doing. Like I know what I want to do and everything, but I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing as an adult. Like, oh my gosh, tax season is coming up. I have to do my taxes again. Like, huh? Like there's so many things that I've been going through it a little bit, like trying to figure out like the adulthood part because part of me just feels like I was telling you, like I'm still just like 12 years old. Like I can't even be trusted with these things. And there's moments where I get into that, and there's moments where I've just chosen to be far from my family a lot. And that part is just like it's really tough. It's tough to like, yes, I couldn't do miles and miles and miles in Spain away from my family, but I can go to Texas or I can go to Missouri and be far. And that challenge is it's tough, but I think that when I think about it, like this all these experiences, one day they're going to take me to wherever I want to be. Like they're going to give me the opportunity to choose that and make that choice for the rest of my life and what I want the rest of my life to look like. I think that's what's really cool about the whole adulting thing is like, okay, now I can make steps to like literally build like the rest of my life. Like it's not just this segment of 4 or 5 years that like you're trying to juice everything out of and soak it up because you never want it to be over. But it's like now I have like all the time in the world to build what I want to build and choose to be far away from my family or choose to be far away from everybody that I know and everything that I know. I think that part's definitely the hard part, but I think the silver lining is that whether I was in Texas or UNLV or here in Missouri, like I always chose good people to be around me in those segments, like the people that I had at Texas and the people I had at Vegas and the people that I have here are just like the sole reason most of the time why I know that I'm making the right decisions and the right steps to do whatever else that I want to do. But that part's tough and it's super scary. And but every time I do it, I'm so happy that I do it. And so it's like that initial fear of change because I'll let myself live in every moment and I will literally let myself feel like it is never going to end. So, like, Texas was never going to end. UNLV, never going to end. Puerto Rico, I'm going to be there forever. And then the day that you have to go, you're like, okay, I did not mentally prepare myself for this. And so it comes letting myself live in those moments definitely comes with like this crazy fear of change. But at the same time, every single time I've chosen a change, something good comes out of it, like no matter what. And whether it's really hard in the beginning or at the end or the whole thing is hard, I just I think I do manage to find a way to see it as a good thing and see it as something that's gonna progress me or take me to the next chapter or all of those things. But ooh, sometimes it is hard. Like right now, it is hard, but it's just like, okay, but the more you keep pushing through it and finding ways to like let it serve you, like let it serve you, and it can be hard, but know that it's doing something for you. And then when you come out of it on the other end, like you're gonna be like, oh, that was awesome. That was the best thing I've ever done for myself. Even though in the moment it's like, "Ooh, maybe I just like I'm like living for like the hindsight reflection." So because I know that when I look back on it, I'm
Yeah.
gonna be like, this is gonna be like your favorite chapter of the whole entire thing, even though like in the moment you're like, oh my God, what am I doing?
I feel that way about a lot of things in my life that I'm like, "Oh, okay, like, I don't know if I wanna do it, I don't know if I wanna go," and then I go and it's like, "Oh, I loved it. That was the best thing ever.
Yeah.
I'm so glad I pushed through that. Oh my gosh, like, I'm so glad I forced myself to do that." And this is kind of a personal question, but I was gonna ask you because it's like I feel like I'm similar to you in the way of like I love my people, I love my family, and now moving away from Michigan to be in Vegas, I've realized like I love the good people around me and I love my family, but it's interesting because I want to go move and go to all these places and do all these things, but I also feel like wait, I really like my home base though, my brother, my sister, my mom. Um, so can you like I guess can you just like talk a little bit about like oh like being with your people but away from your family and like going to all these places like how is that for you and like just still being I guess like able to do all these things away from family.
I think it's like what I've chosen to do is so rewarding that when I am struggling, like it's crazy how like I came here, moved here, and I had some familiarity. And then I ended up meeting my boyfriend, who is just like the best thing that's ever happened to me in my life. And then we're going through life together and building this home and just like creating something that's just the best. It's the one thing you look forward to every single day. Like it's just so much fun.
Hmm.
And then like opportunities come and they go. And we've been reflecting on this a lot since he's moved to Arizona that the best opportunities are going to come your way, but they're always going to cost something. Like there's always going to have to be a give and take. And so it's like, well, we both got like our dream jobs. They're in two different places, crazy opportunities. But like the cost is that like, okay, we can't live together for a little while. And it's like, oh, okay. That's like the worst possible scenario, right? But the more like we sit and we talk about it, like what I'm doing here is so rewarding. Like what I'm doing here is like I can go into the gym every day and be able to coach these girls and spend time with them. And it's like time goes by like so fast because I love what I do and I love what I'm doing. And then like during season, you get to travel a bunch and play in all these different facilities, which I've always been obsessed with. Like it's always been something that's just been so big to me. And I get to do that. And now I get to go out recruiting and with that, I get to see all of my other friends that are coaching for different programs across the country. And it's like, wow, I don't even remember the last time I got to see you and just like give you a hug. And so I think a lot of it comes with like, okay, once again, I'm choosing to be far, but I'm so happy with like, what I'm doing. Like, I know where it's gonna take me, and I know that it's gonna set me up to like when I was a player, I wanted to do big things. Like even now as a coach, like I still want to do really big things. And that part of me, like it will never die. Like I can't get rid of it. There's something about like, okay, I could go and like use my degrees and get a corporate job and like be in that and make good money and whatever. And I was like, but in the back of my head, I'm always like, yeah, but you're not gonna do big things. You're not gonna do these things that you've
Yeah.
been dreaming about doing your whole entire life. So like whenever I get into like that kind of funk where I'm like, I just want to be with my people, I'm just like, okay, but what, like, look at what you're doing now. And you're doing it up like far, like I still have all the support in the world from the people around me and my family and everything, but it's like, okay, but here you are, like you're doing it on your own too. Like you're just having to like be by yourself and like figure yourself out and figure out what you want and be good at what you do. And it's like really hard, but at the same time, like that's so awesome to be able to like say that you can do that is insane. And it's like so easy to talk about. It's so easy to talk about and so much harder to do. But at the end of the day, like when you do get opportunities like this and I get to sit down and talk about it, I am able to like kind of look around at my life and be like, this is awesome. Like
Look
I'm
what I'm doing. Yeah,
but I think that's like the one piece of it that like makes me really feel okay with being far away from my people for so long.
for sure. That makes so much sense. And I really needed to hear that, and I kind of love that. So, my next question is, can you tell us a little bit about a day in the life of coaching?
A day in the life of coaching. Oh my goodness. Okay. I'm going to run you through the routine that I'm going to start tomorrow
I
because
love
I finally have my bearings.
that.
So Sundays, like if I'm here and I'm not recruiting, probably grocery shopping, meal prepping for the week, and just having fun things that I get to eat because that brings me little snippets of joy. And then wake up in the mornings. We're practicing in the afternoons this spring, so workout in the morning. Um, make some good coffee, head into the office, just get some stuff done, plan practice, plan what we get to do with the setters that day, and then head into practice, work as hard as we possibly can, and then get out of there. Hopefully, I did everything that I needed to do work wise that day so I can go home, eat good food, take a shower, get some rest, wake up the next morning, do it all over again, and just keep getting better. It's like it's crazy how it's like so similar to what I did as an athlete. But
It's almost like it's the same schedule, but now I'm just on the other side of it.
exactly. It's like no classes anymore, just emails or something like that.
No.
Oh, yes.
Before I ask you my big question, I want to ask you more about the coaching side of it now. Like, I love this different perspective you take with it, and then how is it being like, well, now this will be your second season with Mizzou. Um, how is it with being a new coach and like being young in this profession? Like, tell us more about that.
Yeah, it's interesting. I feel like I have so much experience as a player within college athletics. But from a coaching side, there's just so much. There's so much that I need to learn and like so much that I need to like figure out how to work through. It's just new. But I'm a question asker. Like I will be sitting there and be like, this might be so dumb, but I'm gonna ask it anyway. Just because like I want to know how to do everything. Like I want to know a little bit about all of it so that like I can like eventually be the best coach that I possibly can be. Um and it's interesting. I really like the fact that like right now I'm still so close to the girls where I feel like my biggest fear at first was that they wouldn't take like what I'm saying because like okay dude you're like the same age as me.
Mhm.
But I think that what I've actually discovered is that like we can have some really really cool conversations about what we're doing and the experiences that we're able to share because like for some of them like I was still playing at the same time as them. Like I think there's like a year overlap now. But then
Mhm.
after that I'm old and it's done with. But um I think that's been really cool just like to figure out how to communicate with everybody like coming from my like younger voice or my younger perspective. And we have such a great insanely amazing group of girls here that like they'll take it all and then they'll ask questions and then they'll like implement it into what they're doing. And I think that part is so cool. And once again, it's just I'm lucky to be where I'm at and surrounded by the people that I'm at because I think this place really allows me to be like who I am and what I want to be. Like it's allowing me to grow into that, which is really cool. But it's different for sure. It's tough. And every time they're out there playing during practice, I always just like, I'm gonna go grab my knee pads and I'm gonna come back and I want to play too. Because they play with joy and they play with love and they like it's the type of volleyball that you're just like, yeah, I want to be part of this every single day.
Oh, I love that. It's like I'm just so happy because it's like hearing you talk about it, it's like, yeah, you're exactly where you need to be. And it's not the place, it's not the title, it's who you're with and how it makes you feel. And I think that's so cool. Um, Now with the pockets of time in your day, which is pretty similar to like student athlete life, but now behind the scenes of it, so more, I guess, you're doing on that side of it. But what makes you feel better at the end of the day, Jenna? How do you feed your soul?
Oh my goodness. I have to change what feeds my soul all the time. I think I just like
Ooh,
hop from different like periods of like how I'm feeling. Like there's some
yeah.
days where like I'm great and I can just come home, take a shower and knock out and best day ever. But I think my favorite thing to do is just like slow myself down at the end of the day. And
Mm.
my boyfriend will joke that it takes me like an hour and a half to like say from one point of saying like, okay, I'm gonna get ready to go to bed to like when I actually get to bed. But I love the routine of winding myself down
Mm,
and turning like whenever I go to sleep, like I want to be able to just turn my brain off. And so some days it just takes so much longer for me to get there. But like it's coming home and taking a nice hot shower and cooking something that is like literally gonna feed my soul
mm,
because good food is
yeah.
just my favorite thing in the whole entire world. And then just like sitting on the couch and watching a movie or sitting on the couch and FaceTiming my family or my best friends or my boyfriend or whoever it might be and making a cup of tea and then doing my skincare routine and then reading a couple chapters of my book and then like finally being able to say like, okay, I can go to bed now. But it's always been about like being able to just turn my brain off and be able to go to sleep and just like dream about like the most random things, like not have to go to sleep and dream about like what I'm doing in my everyday life because
Yeah.
that is like the worst thing ever.
OMG. I love that. I love how you started with it changes. Because, like, I think for some, or I'm not going to say some people, I'm going to say me. I get frustrated 'cause it's like, oh, that's what makes me feel better. So if I don't do it, I'm not going to feel better. But then it's like, it can change because what if one day I need this or a different day I need this? So it's like, it's allowed to change, first of all. But I just love that answer, like, especially with working in sport, like it's always go, go, go. So when you can slow down, it's super important. And I think like even coming from a coach, because I think as an athlete growing up, we're always told, okay, maximize all the time you have, just get better, like get in the gym, work harder, I don't know. And then you being able to say like, oh, like actually slowing down, enjoying it is like what makes it better. I don't know. And it's like,
Yes.
wow, really? Like that works? And it's like, yeah, like look at your life. You're like literally example of like enjoying it is gonna make it better than I guess like pounding your head through a wall trying to make it better. So
Yes, absolutely. For sure.
is there anything that we haven't touched on that you want to share or something anything else you want to share with the podcast?
I don't think so. I was yapping.
I loved it. Loved every single second of it. Oh, well, Jenna, thank you so much for being here. I genuinely enjoyed every single second of this. And I can't wait for the listeners to do that as well. But thank you so much for being on Feed the Soul Company podcast. And for listeners, stay tuned for the next episode.